Hi everyone. Today I'm going to be painting this pretty daisies design that I created, and this is for Mini Canvas Monday. So I hope that you can paint along with me, and if not, the video will go up today, later today on my YouTube channel, and you can join me there. So before we get started, I wanted to show you a little trick that I do sometimes. And I use a styrofoam plate for my palette. Well, sometimes when I want to save my paints a little bit longer, I'll use a moistened paper towel, and I'll stick that down right down on a styrofoam plate, and then I'll cover it with parchment paper. And then when I get my paints on there and I use them, if I want to come back, all I do is I just cover that over with another plate, and I stick it all into a Ziploc bag. And that extra moisture helps keep the paints from going dry, and you can keep them for quite a long time. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to show you some of the brushes that I chose for today. I'm going to use this large flat brush for the background. And I've got this round brush, this nice round brush I thought would be good for the petals. And then I have two different angle brushes, or chisel brushes. Actually, now that I look at that, that doesn't look like much of an angle. But anyway, these are for the leaves and the stem. I'm not sure which one I'll go with, probably the small one, and I might change my mind. And then for the center of the daisies, I'm going to use this little craft I guess stippling brush, or what is it when you have one of those stencils, a stencil, I don't know. Anyway, I had that and I thought that would be good for the centers. So we're going to start with the background, and I'm going to use titanium white. These are all Marte paints. And so I'm going to put a couple blobs of titanium white on my palette. Cerulean blue, and let's get that on here. I'm having video issues, so please bear with me. Okay, a blob of that, and I'm going to go ahead and put down, just so I'm ready for it, I'm going to put my sap green down. Come on, green. Whoa. And a little bit of black. This is lamp black, but any black will do. Okay, I'll hold off on the yellow. All right, so we're going to start with the background. We're going to use our large flat brush. And I'm going to move this out of the way. Okay, get my paintbrush wet, and then really kind of blot it off on my, if you have a paper towel, that works. I'm using a rag, but I don't want my paintbrush to be soaking wet. I'm just making it damp. All right, so I want a light blue background. This is going along with my theme for May, which is basically flower painting on the Mini Canvas Monday. So grabbing a lot of white, and then I'm just going to take some blue on the corner of my brush, and I just want this to kind of be kind of a choppy background, a little different than what I did in the previous weeks. And see how it's, I like that, how it's kind of, you've got some lighter and some darker. I don't want to overwork it. I really want it to look choppy like that. So grabbing some more white, a little more blue. I want there to be dark areas and light areas. I think it gives that background just a little, kind of a different look. And I'm doing like a crisscross effect here. It's okay if you see brush strokes. And some more white, a little bit of blue. And this part should go really quickly. Oh yes, and I'm using a 6x6 canvas panel, just as I did the others. I really was doing the same color background on all of them because I want to put all these paintings together, you know, frame them and then put them together. So I think I'll have 4 by the time I'm done with this series. And I think they'll look really pretty just kind of being together like that. So I don't know if you can see that, but it's really blotchy and I like that. Might go in with a little more white and just kind of lighten it up in some areas. I'm going to have daisies right in here as the focal point. And then maybe I'll just take some blue and maybe darken up. Did you see me put my thumb right in the paint there? Uh-huh, I sure did. All right. I think I'll stop there. And just kind of going through and making sure that I like what I'm seeing here. Okay, that's good. All right. So, oh, I got my finger in some paint. My hand in paint anyway. All right, so I'm just wiping this off in my cloth here. And I am done with this large paintbrush. So I'll go ahead and put that in my water. And the next thing I'm going to work on are the leaves. So I want this to dry before I start on my leaves. And so I'm going to grab this paper plate, just kind of wave a little air on there, or you can use your hair dryer. Just make sure you have it on a cool and low setting, and then still hold the hair dryer away from it. You don't want to put any heat on the acrylic paints at all. So, but they dry pretty quickly. All right. Okay, we're going to go back to the design. All right, so the leaves are, we're going to kind of bring a few leaves this direction, a stem here and there. So we've got 3 stems towards the middle and then another leaf kind of coming off of the side. So I've got leaves coming from the center bottom and kind of fanning out. So I'm going to see what I can do here. I'll just start with some lines and then build my leaves from there. Okay, I'm going to try this smaller, I thought it was an angle brush, I think it is. And get it wet, dab it off. And we're just going to go with just some straight sap green for now, and we can change up the colors later, but for now we're just gonna kind of put our drawing in here. Okay, so I'm gonna have leaves coming from the center and up. So I'll bring my first leaf, I'll bring it something like that. Okay, and another one's coming here like that. Another one's a little higher like that. And then I have a stem for my tallest daisy. So I'm going to put my tallest daisy right around there. So I'll bring the stem here, bring that down. And then my short daisy is going to be right around here. So I'll give that a stem. My other daisy is going to be over this direction. So I'll bring this stem down about there. And then I have another leaf over here, something like that. Okay, now let me work on these leaves a little bit. So let's just kind of create the shape of them. And they are kind of jagged leaves, so they have points coming off of them. So I'm just kind of giving them some of those pointed edges here, and we will further define them later, but right now I'm just kind of giving them their shape. And this one needs some points here. So I'm just taking, I'm using the shape of this chiseled edge paintbrush to create the pointy edge. It's helping me actually draw in the pointy edge of the leaf. Just kind of using the shape of that brush. Woo, I made a little blob, it's okay. Just bring that leaf out more. Okay. And some of these come out a little farther. I guess when the leaf is a little bit bigger, they come out a little farther. The edge. Don't worry about any of that. We'll tidy that up. Oh, looks like there's a little leaf coming about right here off of the stem of this one daisy. So we'll put a little leaf there. Okay, got another little leaf right in here. So let's build that one. And then this one. All the way down. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to come back and I'm going to put a little bit of black into this sap green. I actually put too much black in there, maybe. So let me mix that up here where there's not quite so much black. All right. Smush that out a little bit. And we're going to come down here. We're going to add some of this darker color to this leaf. We're going to kind of play around with that. It's a little bit of shadows. Feels like I just got right into the black, doesn't it? Just pulling. Probably ought to let this dry a bit before I go and do any more work to it. But no, I can't. More black right down the center of this darker green anyway. Looks black from where I'm sitting. All right, that's good enough for now. We'll come back to it and fix it up a bit. So let's get to the daisies themselves, okay? Let me clean this brush off. Now, the daisies, we are imagining a circle here, a circle here, a circle here, and building the daisies on there. Okay, so this is going to take some layering. And let me go ahead. I'm going to put my yellows down on my palette just so that they're ready. So I've got a medium yellow. And I have a yellow ochre. I'll put those out. Okay. Excuse me. All right, so just for now, we're going to start with our petals, our daisy petals, okay? Maybe I ought to just put a circle where I want my centers, and then I can build my petals from there. So that's what I'm going to do first. So I'm going to take this round brush, and I'm going to go ahead and get it wet, dampen it off, and just I'm going to draw with the yellow. Okay, it's not going to stay that way, but that's what I'll use to kind of draw my circles in for my centers. Okay, so this one's going to go about right there. Okay. There's one. Okay, next one I'm going to put right here. Okay, and then one right here. All right, that gives me something to work with. So I know where my daisy center is going to be. Okay, clean that off. I wipe it off anyway. Okay, the first layer of petals I'm going to make is going to, I need to put color in so that once we put the white down, it will show up better on the canvas. I've got black, I've got white, and that's where I'm going to start. So I'm going to first mix some gray. So I'm going to take some white and just make a little pile here. Okay, and I'm going to put a little tiny bit of black in there. And I want to make kind of a light gray color. It's too dark, so come over here. And that looks pretty good. That's pretty good. All right. Okay. So we're just going to start forming our petals, okay? And we'll just let this round brush show us how we're going to define these petals. And just kind of start building around the center. It's very similar to the painting that we did last week, the sunflower. Just come all the way around here. Painting on an easel for a video is difficult because I really do need to kind of turn my canvas, and I don't want to mess up the view for you watching the video. Okay, there's the first layer of petals for that one. Let's come and work on these. And you want to bend some of these, make them appear bent down, especially here in this area of this one. Kind of bend them in. I gotta turn it again, sorry. Okay, we're still in focus. Okay, and then we'll work on putting petals on this last one. it's now a petal. And I need to turn it again. Okay, something like that. All right, how are we in focus? Okay. All right, and I'm gonna get that brush dry now, or cleaned off anyway. And let's feel this. That's about ready. Okay, so I'll work on this one again now. We've got our base color, our underpainting in gray. So now we can come back and we can put some white on there. But before I do that, I'm going to get an even lighter gray color. So let me grab this white and just kind of mix it here to the side of this gray area that I created. So it's not quite white, but it's close. Okay, so let's add some of this. And just kind of going back over where I was, building up some layers, maybe add a few more petals in between. Okay, again, same thing. We're going to use this almost white but not quite white and go around this one. Maybe add a couple more petals in back behind there. Ooh, that one's kind of big. Turn it into a couple more petals here. And I want to add right there. And I'm going to add another one right there. I found the daisies. This daisy, my reference photograph, I found it on Pixabay. I find a lot of my photographs using Pixabay. And then I just generated the petals. I looked at some photographs of daisy petals. Okay. And then last but not least, this one. Again, adding this nearly white but not quite white gray. I love doing these mini canvases because I love just being able to have something pretty and have it done in very little time. You see, I'm not worried about how I'm getting into that center. The center basically just gives me my location of where I want all my petals to come into. And then I will change that and add the center the way I want it when I'm done getting all these petals in. Okay. All right. Okay. Now we're going to go back. We're going to clean our brush. And this time we're going to go straight into the white. So get my brush nice and clean. And I'm just going to go into my pure white. Let's see how some of that gray is coming through, and that's giving it the shadow that we want in our little petals. Looks like I have a renegade if that will squish into the rest of the brush if I twirl that around. Nope, didn't want to. Oops, sorry. Let me see if I can get that off of there. Okay. Gotta turn it. Whoops. Couple more. I like it. Okay, let's go on to this one right down here in the center. Okay. And then my final daisy up here. I like this thicker paint. It gives the daisies texture and lets them really pop off the page, or off the canvas anyway. Not the page, but the canvas. Putting a little one in there. So now, so it can be done there. You can go back, see if there's anything else you want to define a little more with your brush. Add a little more paint here and there. Okay. Okay, and I think I have just a couple places over here I want to work on. Okay, I think I just made that worse, but that's okay. It's just for fun, for the joy of painting. All right, so now I'm ready to work on those centers. I might give that little time to dry here. So before I go to the centers, I'm going to go back to my leaves. Okay, so as you remember, when I was working on the leaves before, the paint was too wet, and every time I tried to add something new, it was just lifting off or, pulling off, and it wasn't working too well. So I'm coming back to it now that it's dry. I've got some shadows in all of them except for this one, so I'll kind of go back to this darker shadow color, which was the sap green and some black. So let me put some shadows in this one. And let me darken up the stem here and come down that stem and put a little dark in that stem. Okay. Let me adding a little more shadow here. Okay. All right, let me clean that brush off. It actually doesn't look too bad the way it is, but now I'm going to put some light green on. Oh, let me show you. So I've got some light green here on the tips and some of the tips of those jagged edges. So I'm going to make a light green with green and white and throw some of those put that on some of those tips. So let's get our little brush here. Same little flat or chiseled brush. And I'm going to make a light green. So I'm going to take some of this white and some of the sap green and just kind of mix that together over here. And if I go too light, I can always come back and darken it up later, but this will be fine to start with. Now, I don't want a whole lot of this in my brush, so I'm just kind of pushing it into the bristles, but also just kind of pushing it out onto the parchment paper. Okay, let's see how we can do here. I'm just gonna come in here, grab those tips. I think I need some more green in that, so I'm going to grab more green, green that up a little bit. Let's see how this does. Yeah, I like that better. Okay. Okay, and I feel like I want to put some of that shadow back in over here. So I'm just going to kind of go down towards the center of this leaf. I like it. And just kind of add back in some of that shadow. Add a little more shadow over here. A little bit more in there, a little more here. Yep. I like it. Okay, so I worked on my leaves. Now I'm going to work on the centers of the daisies. So I'm using a dry brush, okay? Again, this is one of those stencil brushes, all right? And we're gonna start with the yellow ochre. I'm just gonna go straight into it, but now I'm just kind of rubbing it off onto my canvas, kind of smushing it into that brush like that. Okay, and let's see how we do. So we'll start on this one and just gonna kind of push that around, maybe something like that. That one's a little big. I don't feel like I'm having very good control over where these bristles are going. So I think I'm gonna change brush. Okay, we're gonna change a brush. Go back to, whoop, wrong brush. Let's go back to, whoops, the round brush. All right, let's go back to this round brush. Maybe I can clean the edges of that up a little bit. Back to just burnt umber. So let me come over here and just clean that up. That's better. Okay, that's better. All right, burnt umber. Whoa. There we go. Okay. And then this one. Now, just like we did with the white, this is our underpainting, or our, I guess I like to think of it as a base coat. But it's like an underpainting. It's an underpainting. We're giving it some color, and then we're going to lay down a lighter color over it. All right. So I'm not going to clean this brush out. Now I'm going to go into this medium yellow, and I'll just come over here and kind of smush it around with that burnt umber that was already in my brush. Okay, so it's not quite burnt umber and it's not quite the yellow. This is just basically our middle color, and we're going to go in not quite to the edge. Don't go to the bottom edge of that burnt umber, but we'll fill in. It's not quite as big a difference as I was hoping for, so I'm going to add a little more yellow to that. Let's try it again. Yeah. Okay, so it's going to go around the top of that circle. but not quite to the bottom of that burnt umber. Leave a little bit of that burnt umber showing for some shadow. Okay, get some more. I might have to mix more yellow and a little bit of burnt umber. Okay, again, same thing. We're gonna do the top part of the circle, but leave burnt umber at the bottom of the circle. Okay. Oh boy, made a big gold blob right there. But you know, that doesn't matter because I can just go over it with some white, so it's not a big deal. I'll let it dry and I'll go over it with white. Clean off my brush and put a blob of white on there. There we go. Okay, and then last but not least, we're going to put some yellow on there, and I think I'm going to take this filbert brush, this dry filbert brush, dry, not wet, put it in here with the yellow, get some in the bristles, and then I'm going to dab that. Dab it around. Might have to do this. We'll have to do it again and add some white to it. Matter of fact, let's just go ahead and add some white to it now. Save us a little time. So I added some white into that yellow. And we're going to kind of come around. We're going to leave like a little depression in the middle. And I might have to come back and add a little burnt umber there. White and yellow. Leave a little oval in the middle. And dabbing, leave a little oval there in the middle. Looks like I got more on that yellow, or on that white again. Okay, add some more white. You want it to look speckly. Okay. So now it's basically done. All you have to do, if you want to, you can go back in, add a little more highlight, a little more white to it. Maybe take the round brush and further define this area down here with some burnt umber. I'm going to do that. I'm going to take this burnt umber and kind of go very carefully, very light touch here. Kind of go under there just to finish that off. Same thing with here. I've got that renegade bristle I don't like. I might even dab that burnt umber right in the center where I left the little oval. Let's do that, see how that looks. Let's kind of dot a little bit in there, dot a little bit in there. I'm gonna have to fix that later. And a little bit in there. Okay, that's it. So I hope you liked this video, and stay tuned for next week's Mini Canvas Monday. We're going to be painting lavender. So until then, we'll see you later. Bye.